Hello and welcome to Primo Trades. My name is Stephen Primo. I'm the president and founder of Specialist Trading. And in these brief educational videos that I present each week, I share with you different techniques, tips, and strategies that I've accumulated in my 46 years of trading, and then show you how simple it is to become a consistent trader by applying them on our PTS Primo charting platform. Now, in today's educational video, I want to talk to you about a specific chart pattern that may be signaling a major trend change in the markets. But first, let me share with you today's theme, and it's this. Everything you need to know about trading is right there on the chart in front of you. Now, the reason why I focus on this is because we're all taught, everyone, even including myself, to listen to someone or something tell us what we think the market or whatever we're trading, stock, future, currency pair, is going to be doing. But everything you really need to know is right there in front of you. When I first started trading some 4 decades ago on the floor of the stock exchange, I struggled tremendously. I was doing all the things we're taught, listening to the earnings come out, looking at interest rates, listening to the trading gurus on TV, but nothing seemed to make sense. It wasn't until my mentors passed this on to me, whereas everything I needed to know was right there on the chart. That's where my trading started to make sense, and I started to become a consistent trader. So this is what we're going to be focusing on today. In fact, I want to share with you a specific chart pattern that is currently being developed on a lot of the major indices and on stocks. So let's jump right into it. It's a pivot pattern. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with pivots, they're a 3-bar pattern. Bar number 1 creates a low, bar number 2 creates a lower low, and bar number 3 creates a higher low. So if you connect the dots from 1, 2, and 3, you kind of have this V shape right here, as you see, okay? So here's what we want to do. We want to apply one of our proprietary tools, something that I've been using for 4 decades and I learned on the floor of the exchange. It's a color bar tool called the PTS, and it colors the bars either red or green. Now, red if you're in a short-term downtrend, green if you're in a short-term uptrend. So when we apply the PTS, we want to see that it colors all 3 of these bars green, okay, telling you that it's been going up, all right? So usually what happens is you have a nice run up in the market, you make some type of short-term high, and you want to look for this pattern, okay? When you see this pattern of 1, 2, 3, you want to draw an imaginary line. You can place it on the platform and know that this is the benchmark here. So what we want to see is in the next 1 to 3 bars after this has occurred, that we get a red bar painted by the PTS, and it closes below the low of this pivot pattern. When this happens, when the red PTS colored bar closes below the low of the pivot low, what this is telling us is that the market is saying that there may be a major trend change happening, in this case, to the downside. All right, so let's run through that again. The market has been running up, makes a nice short-term high. We have this pivot pattern where all 3 bars are colored green by the PTS color bar tool. And then in the next 1 to 3 bars, we have a red bar closing below that pivot low. This is usually signaling that a major trend change is going to happen, in this case, to the downside. Now, does this work 100% of the time? Absolutely not. Nothing works 100% of the time, but it is a highly consistent pattern, and I'll show you on our PTS Primo charting platform how well it has worked in the past years, okay? So let's pivot now over to the platform and show you some examples of this pattern. Here's a chart of Tesla going back to last October, I believe, okay, in 2022. Now, what you want to do on our platform here, the PTS Primo charting platform, is click on the PTS and click on fill candles, and the colors change, all right? When you have a series of green bars, you're in an uptrend, a series of red bars, and a downtrend. All right, here is what we're looking at back in September, October of last year. We had a nice run up here in price. All the bars were green, and what do we have here? We have that 3-bar pivot low. A low, bar number 1, bar number 2, a lower low, and then bar number 3, a higher low. So you have that V shape, right? Okay. So we know we're going to draw an imaginary line right there. In the next 3 bars, we want to see a red bar close below there. So we have 1, 2, 3 bars. On the 3rd bar right here, we closed below. So roughly when the price was roughly about 290, that was your signal that the market, remember, everything is on the chart right in front of you. The market, not some guy on TV, not some earnings estimate. The market was telling you most likely there's a major trend change. Price was roughly around 290, and as you can see, coming towards the end of the year, it went all the way down to 150. All right. Now we look again, we see that little bounce here, this little short-term bounce. We have a pivot low again, a low followed by a lower low, a higher low, and we have 1, 2 bars later, and you had a second chance to get out or to go short. Let's look at another example. Here's a chart in Apple, okay? Now we're looking at April of last year. All right, we had a really nice run up. Let's see what the PET-D is telling us. Click it on, and we see that all the bars were green, and here we have a pivot low. Bar number 1, bar number 2 is lower, and bar number 3. Okay, so we draw an imaginary line at the low of the pivot, and we want to see in the next 3 bars, we closed below, and it was a red bar. So here's bar number 1 and bar number 2. We just barely closed below, and this happened when price was roughly about 170, okay? And look where price went all the way down to 130. Now here's a chart of the spiders. That's the ETF that represents the S&P 500. Okay, let's see how this could have helped us. Well, going back to January of 2022, if you can see here, we had a nice run up. All the bars were green. We have that pivot low right here. And we have 1, 2 bars. That's where we closed below. And look at the sell-off that happened after that, okay? Now, we had a nice little run up here, a series of green bars. And here's the pivot, 1, 2, 3. And we count 1, 2 bars later, they're colored red, closing below that low. And look at the market falling out of bed, okay? Now, if you can see this right here, we have the benchmark a little bit over it, but we have that pivot, once again, low, lower low, higher low, all colored green, and the very next bar colored red, and look at the market falling out of bed. Here we have in July and August a nice run up. All the bars are green. We have the pivot low, lower low, higher low, and in the very next bar we closed red, and look what happened. So you see this happening over and over again in all markets and time frames. Here's a weekly chart of coin, okay, Coinbase. This represents the crypto market, okay? This is going back to 2021. We had a nice run up on a weekly time frame, but here's that pattern. Here's the 3-bar pattern, low, lower low, higher low. You draw an imaginary line, and in the following week, we had a red bar. Now, this happened when price was roughly around 300. Look what happened coming in to January of this year. Price was roughly at 30, okay? From 300 all the way down to 30. Remember, the market tells you everything you need to know. There's nothing you needed to know other than this 3-bar pattern. Here's a monthly chart now of the QQQs. That's the ETF that represents the NASDAQ index. We had, going back to 2006, starting in 2007, a really nice run up in price. And what do we have here at the very highs? We have a low, bar number 1, bar number 2, a lower low, and bar number 3, a higher low. So this is the pivot right here. Now, on the very next monthly bar, we had a red bar closing below the low. All right, this is when price was roughly about 48, and it went all the way down to 25. Now, if you look at the date, what was this? January 2008. All right, this was the beginning of the financial crisis that started a very significant bear market. All right, this was a monthly time frame that told you everything you needed to know. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this pattern is because here's a chart now of the S&P 500 index, GSPC. And this is a current chart starting in mid-January. We had a really nice rally. All the bars are green. And then what do we have here? We have a low, here we have a low, a lower low, and a higher low. This is the pivot right here. And this is the action that happened yesterday. If I can get a line here, we can see that we just closed below there on the next bar, and it was a red PET-D colored bar. So this is that pattern occurring once again in the S&P 500. Now, does this mean that we are going straight down and we're starting a bear market? Absolutely not. I'm just bringing this as a cautionary video to share with you that this pattern has appeared once again, and as I've seen it in the past, it oftentimes can signal a major trend change. So as we go back and look at the presentation once again, remember, everything you've just seen has been displayed on the PTS Primo charting platform that teaches you how to trade. And the PET-D, along with many of our trading strategies and tips, are one click away, easily accessible by simply clicking on the platform. As we close, once again, I just want you to remember our theme of today is that everything you need to know about trading is right there on the chart in front of you. You just saw numerous examples of this pattern where there was no mention of interest rates, there was no mention of support and resistance, there was no mention of moving average crossovers or of Fibonacci retracements, or what some trading guru supposedly was telling you what he thinks of the market. Everything you need to know about trading is on the chart in front of you. What you need to know now is how to identify and learn those things. And that's what we do at Specialist Trading. For more information on any of our courses, on the PET-D, or any more of the tips and techniques that are on the platform, please contact my sister site, Pro Trader Strategies. You can email them, as you see right there. I would suggest calling them at 310-598-6677. They can answer all of your questions about pricing, about data, and about current discounts. As we take a closing look at our disclaimer, I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to watch this brief educational video. I hope you learned something, and most especially, I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine at Specialist Trading. I'll see you next week in the next Primo Trades video. Thanks a lot. Have a great trading week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.